Today we're talking seam allowance. This is going to be part of the sewing instructions. It's when you sew, there's not going to be marks on your fabric to show you where you're supposed to be stitching. So the seam allowance allows you to sew and keep your stitching really precise. There's 3 that we're going to be talking about specific to our projects. So this is going to basically measure the distance from your needle to the edge of your fabric. So if you look here, I have it set up in one distance. Here I'm changing the seam allowance. So that distance from the edge of the fabric to my needle is going to be greater. The 3 important ones that we're going to be working on are 1/4, 3/8, and 4/8. Okay? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to line up the 1/4. Now the 1/4 is going to be right here at the edge of my presser foot. So I'm going to lift up my presser foot. And then I'm going to line up the edge of my material with that presser foot. So if you notice that there's none of the material coming out of that. Now when you start stitching, what you're going to do is make sure, go ahead and stitch it a little bit. Okay, then we're going to back stitch like we always do. Okay, I'm going to continue on. Now as I continue, I'm going to keep that line as close to the edge of my presser foot as possible. Okay, and then we're going to back stitch at the end. Okay, now that's going to give me a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So what that's going to do is my stitch line is going to be really consistent all the way along, even though there's no marking. So if you see there, we have the 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way along there. So my stitching is 1/4 inch from the edge of that fabric to where that needle punctured through. The next one we're going to talk about is 3/8. So if you look here, there's going to be a metal engraved line on your machine. It's the very first metal engraved line beyond the presser foot. So what you would do is you would line up with that first metal engraved line. Okay, we're going to drop down that presser foot. And now we're going to go ahead and still sew the same thing. Now if you go off a little bit, that's okay. Just make sure that you get back on track. Okay. Now the last one that we're going to go for is our 4/8. So the 4/8, what you'll do is you're going to measure it up with the next engraved line that's out there. So you have 3 different spots that you're looking at. You have the edge of your presser foot. You have this first line, which is 3/8. And then you have your second line, which is 4/8. So in your instructions, it's going to tell you 3 different dimensions. You need to make sure you're following that for precision.